Okay, I think we've got everybody in the room this afternoon. So I'm going to start by giving you all a very warm welcome to our very special webinar this afternoon. It's week 7 of lockdown, and whilst the sun is shining so brightly across the UK, we might at times not feel like the sun is shining in our heads and our hearts. As we all try to live in these extraordinary times, it is really tough. I, for one, have moments of real sadness or fatigue and feel anxious about stuff that ordinarily my life would be too busy to notice. So if, like me, you would like to feel less alone with this myriad of feelings and learn some new ways to feel better and more in control, then you are in the right place, as I've asked Susan Tomlinson, who is an extremely experienced psychotherapist and counsellor, to come and share her insights and observations as to why what is going on, and how we can create a happier, more relaxed state within ourselves. Just a bit of housekeeping for anybody who's still trying to join. We will be switching off all your cameras and your microphones, otherwise we just have a mayhem of noise. And if you have a question you would like to ask Susan, then please put it in the chat box and I will take care of it. Obviously, everyone's experiences are deeply personal, so if you prefer to get in touch with Susan directly, we will share her contact details in the follow-up email. For those of you who don't know me, then a very warm welcome to 2 to 3 Days. I am the founder of 2 to 3 Days, and 2 to 3 Days is a purpose-led company whose mission it is to advance women's equality through the power of flexible working. So Susan, a very big welcome to you, and it'd be great to start off with a very wide question of how do we navigate this new normal? Indeed, what is normal? What pearls of wisdom have you got to share with us on this big subject?
Oh, Juliet, it's really lovely to see you, and thank you so much for having me along today. And yeah, what a question. What is normal? I mean, as you say, you know, there's a myriad of emotions. We're on an absolute roller coaster here. There's sadness, there's overwhelm, there's anxiety. We feel low one minute, we're grieving. You know, some people are grieving loved ones, and in a way we're perhaps all grieving our old way of life and our old way of being. And I think it's just really important to acknowledge that whatever you're feeling is normal. You know, give yourself permission to feel however you're feeling. It's all kind of welcome, you know, and in a way, you know, how we feel is really, it's part of the truth of that moment. And, you know, it's perhaps an opportunity for us to almost use our feelings to begin to navigate through this situation.
Susan, how do we navigate with our feelings? As you say, we've got everybody at home and maybe lots of listeners have young children to deal with. And it feels like sometimes there's no room to do any of that. It's just for me, I just sometimes feel like, everything, work, family, everything's coming at me and there's no sort of escape. So what do we do?
Yeah, it's really true. It's so true. And I think, you know, but as you were saying earlier, you know, with our lives, our busy lives, you know, we kind of have a sense of knowing what we're going to be doing or thinking we know what we're going to be doing from one moment to the next. You know, we've got this busy existence of school and work and dinners and holidays and, you know, from one minute to the next. But underneath that external life, we've got this internal self, you know, with our emotions and our feelings. And now we're in lockdown, all of this is gone. It's all been shaken up. And so our feelings are really close to the surface. I mean, of course they are. And I suppose it's just really important for us to accept that and accept that, you know, how we feel in the moment is a fact situation with our feelings, and to inform ourselves of what we might need and support ourselves in any given moment. But as you mentioned with parents, you know, you can feel that there's no room for that, but actually, you know, supporting ourselves kind of supports others. And in a way, it reminds me of, when we're about to, take off on an airplane, and there's the safety talk from the hostess. And they talk about when the oxygen mask comes down, that as a parent, you must always put your own oxygen mask on first. Yeah. You have to breathe yourself in order to be able to support others. And I quite like that analogy, because in a way, that's what we need to do now. We need to breathe. We need to know that we can support ourselves now so we can support others around us.
Okay. And so how do we begin feeling with our feelings? As you say, some of us might not have a clue where to start with that. It's for some that might feel overwhelming in and of itself. So you've got all these feelings. How do you feel them? What do you do?
Well, I think that's a really good point. It's not as if we've sort of often been educated about our, this emotional life that's sitting underneath. And in fact, we're encouraged to externalize all the time, and not really give much attention to this. So, but there's an expression in psychology that I really like, which is that we can name it to tame it. And, if we can name how we're feeling, even if we're not sure about it, we can just take a punt and just, for example, I'm feeling sad, and just naming it and saying it out loud and giving a little bit of space to it, to then sort of drop down into, well, is it sadness, or, am I actually feeling melancholy? Is it melancholy? Is it that I'm actually missing my old life? And, it's just, in that 30 seconds, we can begin to kind of become curious about what it is really going on for us internally. And, I think that's really part of the process. And it's not just about naming feelings, but also being curious about our thought processes, because in this moment of deep uncertainty and...
Well, we've got a bit of Wi-Fi problem here. Keep going.
My goodness, isn't it uncertain? There's a sense of an illusion of a certainty. Oh, really?
Yeah, the Wi-Fi now, just it's a bit better.
Shall I just keep going?
Keep going, but yes.
You're okay from my end, but I'll just keep going.
Yeah, keep going. It was a bit crackly. I don't. Carry on.
Yep. Okay. Did you get the whole thing about perhaps naming it to tame it, and then?
Yeah. I'd like to know why. What's the value in naming it? What's the value to us as saying I'm feeling sad, rather than what's the significance of being able to say I feel something?
Well, I think what that does is it begins to connect ourselves to our hardwiring of calm. We have a sort of hardwiring which is called our parasympathetic nervous system, which really allows us to relax and to kind of prepare us for sleep and digest food and all these things that help us relax. And simply by naming step to connecting with that parasympathetic nervous system, it begins to kind of give us some support and allowing some space around how we feel, instead of pushing those feelings away and ignoring them. And they sort of, feelings are a bit like mercury. Push them away, they come back in a different form, in a different way. So beginning to engage in our emotional life gives us a little bit of strength and support.
Okay. And why is it that we often focus on the worst case scenario and sort of ruminate on that and think that the world's all going to come to an end? And it's not helped by the 10 o'clock news and the front page of the newspapers at the moment. Why do we do that, Susan?
Well, I think that sort of, we are unfortunately wired for the negative. And, there's a very, very good reason for that. And there's a psychologist that I really like called Rick Hanson, and he puts it that we are Teflon for positive thoughts. and Velcro for the negative. And I really like that because, yeah, it's brilliant. And actually, you know, in this situation, sometimes, you know, you might feel that you're completely wrapped like a mummy in Velcro. You know, it's like there's a sense of uncertainty, and we can't bear uncertainty as humans. You know, we want to fill that. We hate it.
We've all practically booked our seat for Boris's session on Sunday evening. We all just want him to give us a 5-step plan back to normality.
Yeah,
which we know is not going to happen, and poor Boris is going to, you know, he's going to fail us. Whatever, isn't he? Whether you like him or not, he's still, you know, because we want certainty and he can't give it to us.
He can't. And so what we tend to do to create certainty is tell ourselves really negative stories, you know. So for example, in this situation, it might be, for example, you've just been furloughed from work. So that's the only thing that you're certain about in this moment is I've just been furloughed. But there's a whole realm of uncertainty around that. And our thought process might go something like, well, I've been furloughed from work. What happens if that furlough, if Boris doesn't extend that on Sunday and my, you know, this business goes under? What if the business goes under and I lose my job? What if I lose my job and I can't get another one? What if I can't get another one and I can't pay my mortgage? And before we know it, we've gone from being furloughed to being out on the street.
Oh my God, living under watery bridge.
And what I call a negative.
Yeah,
exactly. And, you know, like it's good to be curious about what are the stories we're telling ourselves? What are the ways that we talk to ourselves and fill in that gap of uncertainty? Because as you say, you know, we are wired for the negative, and really there's a good reason for that. We've inherited a prehistoric brain. And that brain is essentially our Stone Age ancestors could
oh my God, we've lost you.
Make 2 mistakes in the
Susan,
jungle.
we lost you then.
One, oh, you've lost me.
We lost you. You were talking about the prehistoric brain and the Wi-Fi went.
Hear me now? Oh, can you hear me now?
Yeah, can hear you now. Bear with us, everybody. This is Wi-Fi overload. Yeah. So tell us about the prehistoric brain. Why are we so wired? Because it just really pisses me off when I have all these negative thoughts. I'm like, come on, I'm normally a pretty upbeat person, and I can be walking my dog and think the world's going to come to an end. And you think, oh, why are we wired like this?
Well, we're wired.
Oh, Susan, it's really bad.
It's for our survival, because when we were oh, is it? Oh,
yeah,
I can hear you. No,
it's better now.
Better
We're
now?
wired for our survival.
Better now. Wired for our survival, because in the jungle and with our Stone Age ancestors, in the jungle there were 2 mistakes that they could make. One was that they thought there was a tiger in the jungle, but there wasn't. So thank goodness. I'm safe, my family's safe, my tribe is safe. The second mistake our Stone Age ancestors could make in the jungle was that they thought there wasn't a tiger in the jungle, but there was. So that's a fairly potentially, so Mother Nature has wired our brain for survival to make that first mistake of thinking that there's a tiger in the jungle over and over and over again.
The Wi-Fi's bad, Susan.
And if we translate that into modern day life, oh, is that?
Yeah. No.
Can you hear me? No?
Yeah, I can again.
You can again?
It's quite really hard. We're on the tigers, so that we're hard. There's tigers everywhere.
There's tigers everywhere.
Yeah, well, I don't know whether we try taking your, whether there's more Wi-Fi. I'm going to stop your video for a bit and see if that makes a difference. Okay. Is that okay, everybody? I'm going to just see.
Of course. Of course.
Talk now, Susan.
Is that better? If I'm just talking about, as you say,
Yes.
there's plenty of tigers in the jungle.
That's much better. We'll keep you camera free.
Lots of tigers. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So did you get? Okay, that's no problem for me. Okay. Okay, so if that's much better, let's tigers in the jungle. Did we get to the 2 mistakes that we can make?
Yeah, we did. But I think I put your camera back on
again. Did we get to the 2 mistakes that we could make? Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah, the message we're getting, Susan, is that your bandwidth isn't strong. That's the problem. I think.
Oh, gosh. Okay.
Bear with us, everybody. Stay tuned.
Okay. Is that better?
That is better. I would put your camera back on again if I were you.
Okay.
I think it loses something. I don't think it makes any difference, and I think it's good to see you.
Here we go. That's 10. Is that better?
That's better. Yeah.
Yeah, that's better. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So where did we get to on this tigers in the jungle?
There are 2 tigers. You either think there's a tiger or there is a tiger, but either way, we're wired to think we're surrounded by tigers.
Absolutely. And in this moment at the moment, of course, there are a load of tigers everywhere in the jungle. We're seeing them everywhere. So there's a real deep sense of being wired for the negative. And it's just, and it's almost as if we have to compensate for that.
Yeah. Okay. And what's happening? What's going on with the brain that sends these tiger messages to us? Why? You know, what's going on?
Well, essentially, if we could maybe think of our brain, we can use a hand model of the brain. This is based
I loved it when you showed me this before. Hold on, everybody.
Yeah.
This is really clever.
It's so brilliant. So this is based on the work of Dan Siegel, who's a neuroscientist and UCLA professor, and he's, I think, a bit quietly horrified by himself that he's made it so simple. But basically, essentially, if we take our hand and place our thumb across the palm and wrap our hand around, fingers around here, and imagine that this is our brain, sitting here like this. This is our spinal cord down the back here. This is our thinking brain, or our rational brain, which is the newest part of our brain. And underneath it here, we've got our brainstem, which is essentially the part of our brain that regulates our breathing, that allows us to digest food, prepares us for sleep, and all those things, and that we're not terribly conscious of. You know, we're not overly conscious of how we're breathing or how our heart rate is. This part here is our emotional brain. It's where we see the tigers in the jungle. It's where we have our stress response, which you've probably heard of: fight, flight, freeze.
Yeah.
And that's where all of this sits. At the end of that is the amygdala, or the smoke alarm. And I'll tell you why it's a smoke alarm in a bit. And there's our cortex over the top. This prefrontal cortex sits like this here, and this communicates with our thinking brain, our emotional brain, and our body brain. So it's actually really crucial for wiring to calm. So what happens if we get stressed? We have a trigger. Trigger comes here. We all have completely different triggers. Stress button here, amygdala, smoke alarm starts firing. And we all know what smoke alarms sound like. They're really loud. And, you know, so what happens to our thinking brain is it begins to flip like this. This isn't physically obviously what happens, but,
I hope not.
Yeah. But as a metaphor, what's happening is our thinking brain is going offline and we're going into our emotional brain. And trigger comes closer, smoke alarm louder, until we completely flip our lid. And we all know what that looks like. We all have different ways of flipping our lid, you know. Yeah. And when we flipped our lid, we are in our emotional brain.
Okay.
To bring ourselves back to ourselves, except through our body is a really good and useful way to be able to do that.
And what do you mean through our body? What do you mean by that?
Well, in this, when we're our breath and our breathing become one of our best friends. We can.
You're frozen again, Susan. I think you said that we get
breathing
to connect our body to our breath and our breathing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
your Wi-Fi's gone again.
Oh God.
But you connected to your body through your breath and your breathing. And we've had some feedback. Keep going. So, people love this analogy.
Yes.
It's perfect. She's got such gems to share, everybody, that Wi-Fi is just not good in Brixton this afternoon.
Sorry about that. So actually, it might be useful for me to be connecting to my breathing at this moment.
Yeah, you poor thing. So tell us about how we connect our brain that sits outside our body.
Yeah, well, do you know what? That's a really good point, because our brain is not of our body, and I think it's very easy for us to forget that. And our breath is our bridge from our kind of anxiety to it's the bridge to calm. So it becomes our best friend in this moment. So shall we try a couple of breaths together? Because I could do with some.
Yeah.
So there's lots of different kinds of breathing techniques, but there's one I really like. It's easy to remember. It's called the 2-4-6 breath.
Okay.
So whenever we're kind of connected to breathing, it's quite good we can all try it together, to place our feet flat on.
Put your feet on the floor. Both your feet on the floor.
Feet on the floor. Yep. And we're going to be breathing in through our nose and out through our nose. So we're going to breathe. Let's try it together. We're going to breathe in for 2 counts. So breathing in, and just hold our breath for 4, 3, 2, 1. And breathing out through our nose. 2, 1. It's a really long out breath. We'll just try it again, yeah? Breathing in for 2. And hold for 4, 3, 2, 1. And out for 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And I'm just going to ask you, Juliet, how do you feel? What do you notice about that?
Much more zen. It gets you right down in your stomach, and you feel much more earthed and anchored, I think would be my instinctive reaction to that.
Yeah, and I think that's true. It's a good, it's a good point that you mentioned into your gut, because actually that is the kind of breathing that we're wanting. You know, when our fight, flight, freeze moment, sometimes we might just know that we're, and actually what we want to do is belly breathe, and there's something about that long out breath that helps us connect to that prefrontal cortex and to our really wiring for calm.
We're always told about our breath, but it's the understanding of the why. As you said, it's a lovely metaphor that the breath is the bridge between the head and the body. And only this morning, my Pilates teacher was on Zoom, was talking about how she felt much shortness of breath, and that we've all got to learn to breathe and get the air going through our body, which brings that sense of calm and the ownership of the feelings that you mentioned earlier. And if we are in a situation with
absolutely,
may I come on to something else? There's a lot. You either with the coronavirus at the moment have some big thing that happens which is not pleasant, or as I've noticed with my colleagues and my friends, there's this sort of low level pervasiveness of just anxiety that's sort of just seeping into everything, and we're all dealing with it, so we don't sort of feel as though we can sort of have a big moan because everybody's in the same boat, but there's this sort of pervasive feeling that we're all enveloped in. You know, what's your thoughts or suggestions on how we deal with that?
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. You know, it's not necessarily what I'm kind of hearing when you say that. It reminds me of maybe it's this, you know, that's happening. We haven't flipped our lid, but we just kind of like it's sort of rumbling away. It's just low level anxiety. And I think, you know, when we were talking earlier about those two kind of layers, we've got our external.
Oh.
Recognize that rumbling feeling. Gone again?
Gone again, but you're back. Yeah.
I'm back. So I'm not sure where you lost me, but I was just talking about that external and internal, and understanding that low anxiety that you're talking about is, it's just important to name it, you know, and to begin to feel it. And actually, you know, we're talking about calm here a lot today. That word obviously keeps coming up, and it really reminds me of a quote that I keep reading, and it's from the Vietnamese. He's a Zen master. He's a Buddhist with a great sense of humor. It's called Thich Nhat Hanh, and he's written loads of great books on emotions and dealing with emotional life. But he talks about when the Vietnamese refugee boats were met, you know, when everybody was on the boat escaping Vietnam, and they met with storms or pirates, that if everybody panicked, that if just one person on that boat could remain calm, that actually it showed the way for everybody to survive. And in some ways, it reminds me of, you know, that it's that sense that our calm is contagious. And if we translate that to family life, if we have a sense of being able to connect to calm, not just for ourselves, but that we're modeling for our kids, you know, that on our own little boats, you know, at the moment, that if we can be aware of that rumbling anxiety and learn to kind of appreciate it and see it as information and valuable information for us to be able to navigate, you know, the seas, if you like, well, then we're beginning to do it for everybody else, not just for ourselves.
And it is so true, because I can be a bit sort of, you know, hot wired at times, and I have noticed that if I could just stay very calm, and just walk away, or just
but you know, I mean, that's easier, of course, that's easier. Absolutely. And I mean, but it's, you know, it's all very well to say, well, how, you know, how do we do this? And I think, you know, when we're thinking of navigating through these difficult feelings, there is a framework that I really like. I don't know if you've lost me, but
no, we're here.
Oh, you're here? Oh, good, because you've frozen for me, but that's okay, I'll just keep on talking. I think it's, you know, great, that's good. So there's a framework that I really like, which can be really useful for, I guess, navigating and sitting with these difficult feelings in order to kind of connect to calm. And that is a framework from an American psychologist and a mindfulness teacher called Tara Brach. And she talks about a framework called RAIN, And I don't know if you've come across it, but it's really helpful. And I'll just run through it quickly. So RAIN is an acronym that stands for, R is for recognize. So that's really that name it feelings that we were talking about. So it's recognizing how we're feeling, that low level anxiety that you talked about just before, recognizing I'm feeling anxious, pausing, allowing a little bit of space on it. The A in the RAIN is for accept. So accepting how we feel about how we feel, whether we want to judge those feelings, whether we want to control those feelings. The I is for investigate, and that's not investigating those feelings from a thought process point of view, but investigating about how you're feeling things in your gut or your chest, just in your body. What is that feeling really making me feel in my body? And the N is for nurture, which is really lovely. And that's that sense of, what is that feeling really wanting from me in this moment? How can I be really, truly kind to myself in this moment? And I think it's really, framework is a huge practice, it's the life's practice.
Yeah,
it takes a long time, to.
But if I might interject, I think what I'm taking from this is that any feeling is okay, and it's to acknowledge the feeling and just say, I'm feeling angry, I'm feeling sad, I'm feeling whatever I'm feeling. And then if I heard you correctly, that you then go, where am I feeling it? It might be tightness in the chest, your whole body might feel achy. What I'm hearing a lot from people is that they're sleeping well, but they're waking up still feeling tired. And that can be the fact that you're just holding all this stress. And you just think, okay, I'm feeling tired. And sort of, as you say, from the beginning, you name it in order to tame it. And then this acronym of RAIN, you recognize it, you accept it, you investigate it where it is in your body, and then look how you can nurture it, whether that is, I don't know, a bath or a walk or a run or binge some Netflix,
power nap.
A power nap. Yeah. Is that right? Is that what you would say?
Absolutely. That's exactly it. And I think I probably also should just say one more thing about that, and that is that, if feelings do feel too overwhelming, to reach out, and to get support, because even in lockdown, there's a lot of support out there. All the therapists I know are working online. There's still call centres, there's like the Samaritans, there's plenty of places to go to get help. And, even free, drop-in counselling centres are still working now online. So, and I think there's a reference which I have, I think, sent your way, so we can put that up for people to access if they want to.
What other top tips that you would suggest that people could do? A girlfriend, for instance, gave me at Christmas a journal book, and it's called, Write Down Your Thoughts. And the other night I woke up at 2 a.m, like bang, and I just ended up writing down what was in my head, and then I went back to sleep. I don't think I've looked at it since, but it really helped. Do you recommend things like that?
Oh, do you know that? Absolutely. That's one of my favourite things, is actually using writing, because sometimes when you say, keep a journal, people roll their eyes and like, oh my God, I don't want to do like a teenage angst journal. It's not about that. It's just about being cathartic, Yeah. Just tip your feelings out as you did at 2 o'clock in the morning. You don't even have to look at them again. Don't even have to engage with them again. They've gone, you've written them out. in a stream of consciousness. I love that. Yeah, that's one of my favorites. That's really one of my favorites. But actually another one that I think people are finding quite useful. I watched some of Frozen 2 the other day. I'm sure there's a few parents out there that have maybe seen that a few times over. But exactly. But yeah, the part in Frozen 2 where Anna, I think, has lost her sister, and she's singing a song about just taking the next right step. And I've been really thinking about that a lot, because I think when we pull the lens out, like we were talking about earlier in terms of looking at the uncertainty, we can really start freaking out. And I think just taking the next right step, even if that means just putting your feet on the floor and getting out of bed in the morning, you know, that's enough. That might be just take the next right step for that moment. Okay, what's next? I'm going to get dressed. That's enough. Let's just take the next right step. You know, so breaking it down.
Mm-hmm. And what do you do? We've had an email came in from a lady called Katie in Winchester, and she says she's exhausted, she's desperately in need of a break, but she's cooking, cleaning, holding down a job, trying to be homeschooling. She's got a 6-year-old and she's potty training, so she's got a hell of a lot on. Where should she start? I know you say take the next step, but where do you start if you're juggling? It just feels like you are juggling so much that there's no time for you to breathe. Or
oh my gosh, I mean, first of all, my heart goes out. I mean, you know, that's just so much to be carrying right there. And I think just, you know, the first step would be in acknowledging that, you know, that's a lot, and that is almost too much for one person, you know. But in order to kind of just take that next right step, you know, maybe it is that's as simple as, you know, she's preparing food and it's dinner, and then suddenly whoosh, you know, overwhelmed. What can I do for myself in this moment that would be kind? And I think really throughout all of this, the most important thing is that a little bit of kindness goes a really long way in these times, you know. So that might be just as simple as, oh my God, I cannot face even dinner. I'm going to go outside. I'm going to breathe. I'm going to just get myself into the outdoors. I'm going to ignore the kids. I'm going to stick them in front of TV, and I'm just going to take 5 minutes to breathe. You know, it's just about being kind in the moment and recognizing that how you feel is valid, and allowing yourself to be kind to yourself, really.
yeah, and we've had another email in from a lady called Louise, who sadly her best friend's father's died, and she wants to be there for her friend, but obviously she can't go around and give her a big hug like you normally would. What would you suggest?
Well, I mean, first of all, it's, you know, it's that recognition. I mean, the fact that that Louise, is it? She's even writing in. She's obviously, you know, really aware, and I think, you know, more than anything in those kinds of moments, it's not necessarily about doing anything. You know, we so often forget that we're human beings. We're not human doings, you know, and just by being there for someone and listening with no sense of trying to fix the situation, because actually no amount of fixing it or controlling it, or, you know, that's just a really sad place to be. So just allowing, you know, that sadness or whatever way that grief is manifesting, just allowing it as a friend, to be on the end of a phone, to just sit and to be there.
Okay. Well, Susan, thank you. Is there anybody I'm sorry we've had a bit of a hiccup with technology this afternoon.
Oh, I'm really sorry, yeah.
You've got such pearls of wisdom to share. Is there anything from the audience that you would like that you've enjoyed or want Susan to go back through, since the Wi-Fi seems to be stronger now, or any comments you'd like to make, so that you don't feel as alone, and hopefully you realize that we all share these feelings at some point. That's part of being human. Yeah, we've had some positive feedback, so people want to share it. So thank you. I think you've done some real pearls of wisdom. I love that breathing exercise, and the fact that you know, I think we talked before that our brain is actually all in us. It's in every sort of cell of our body, that it doesn't sit outside our head. And the more we sort of don't think of the brain sitting out here, but it's in everything that we do. And I think the big takeaway for me is that your breath is your bridge. And as soon as you start to breathe deeply, it calms you and it makes you feel more centered. And it gives you perspective, doesn't it? Oh, Susan's now frozen completely. So I hope that has helped you this afternoon.
Absolutely.
Oh, Susan's back.
Oh, it's okay. I was just agreeing with you about the breath. It's a gift.
Yeah.
Remember to breathe.
Okay, well, thank you much, everybody, and thank you for sticking with us as the Wi-Fi was jerky. And I hope you all go away and sit in the sunshine and just breathe and breathe again. All right, everybody, take care and stay safe. Bye-bye.
Bye.